son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We have all your information for the annual Alabama 500 this week from Talladega Motor Speedway. Stage racing this week will be at laps 55, lap 110, and then we race all the way to the finish with those restrictor plates to lap 188. Now remember, kids, with restrictor plate racing, anything and everything probably will happen at the track this weekend. So a lot of this information is just something you can use to help influence your roll of the dice this week.
Interesting fact here at Talladega, in the last 10 races, Ford has been the most dominant with 7 wins, which actually the last 4 consecutive wins. Chevy with 2, and then Toyota with 1 win.
Yeah, Toyota hasn't had the best of times at Talladega or with the restrictor plates. And, kids, we have a chance of thunderstorms Sunday when we go racing at 2 p.m. Eastern on the network of NBC. We're on the main network again this week because it makes perfect sense to put it on the main network when you're competing against all of Sunday football, but not when you're competing against nothing.
Right.
So I'm just going to continue to scratch my head on those kinds of decisions by NBC Sports. Anywho, I think it's time at Talladega to burn some rubber. Lear, burn some rubber for us, baby.
Before I get into that, man, remember last year when the points were into play and JGR decided to go ahead and it was smart to hang out in the back of the field?
Oh, yeah. At least we don't have to worry about that this year.
And that won't play into effect this season for sure. And Robert Talladega restrictor style, baby!
You did such a great job. I'm inspired. I'm going to steal it, and I'm going to roll with the burner rubber pick first because it's kind of obvious. Dale, yeah, guys. I know it's his last weekend, and I know he's overpriced. DraftKings came out and fired him at $9,200 this week, which is just ridiculously priced for a guy that has done absolutely nothing all season. However, this is a play of the heartstrings, and I understand why DraftKings did this. DraftKings placed this price at $9,200 because you, just like me, are going to be emotionally tied to this being Dale Jr.'s last attempt at a restrictor plate track, at least until he retires. This may be the last time we ever see him on the main cup at a restrictor plate. The restrictor plates are the track that the Earnhardt name is stamped on, right? Dale Jr. has an amazing track history here. 6 wins, 12 top 5s, and 16 top 10s in 34 races. That means he almost gets a top 10 half the time he goes out and races here. I think that this is just an awesome play from the narrative that we get to play a hero of the sport, the fan favorite of the sport, in his last chance ever at his best type of track. I'm going to commit a lineup to it, and I think most people will. That's why DraftKings priced him so high. Now, should you probably fade him statistically? Yes. Will you probably kick yourself that you didn't get to root for Dale Jr. if he does win? Absolutely. And here's the thing that most analysts won't give you. If you watched practice, it looked like old Dale Jr. was back. And the reason why I say this is in the lines that he was doing with the Chevys, he was one of the few cars that was pulling out, reeling people down, and making passes. And I haven't seen Jr. act like that in practice on a restrictor plate course in years. And it excites me. I think it makes me want to play him even more. He has a very good chance to win this weekend and go out on top. You guys know how I love Narrative Street. And this just is screaming a Dale Jr. win. I've got major appreciation. The Dark Knight will rise again. See what I did there? Lear, what are your thoughts on Jr.?
Love it, man. He was actually my choice as well to be the burning rubber pick, but somebody's got to pick him, so got to let the big man take him. But no, man, I definitely love Dale this weekend. There's just so much in this with him coming back to Talladega. Most wins in his career are at restrictor plates. He's got 6 at Talladega and 4 at Daytona. Back in the early 2000s, he actually won 4 consecutive races here at Talladega from 2001 until 2003. So, you know, it's just one of those things with all the stars are going to align. And I really think, too, after the first 2 practices, they've got a fast car. They've got a very competitive car. Awesome paint scheme, by the way. The good old Mountain Dew fan appreciation car with over 54,000 names on it. And, you know, it's just one of those things where you've got the fans riding with you on your last restrictor plate race. You're showing speed this weekend so far. Obviously, it's going to play a huge factor into today as far as final practice and qualifying. I'm sorry, just qualifying. There is no final practice. We want to, you know, talk about playing at the heartstrings. Dale Sr.'s last win in the Monster Cup. I don't know why. We're almost done. We're almost done with the whole season, and I still can't get the sprint out of the Monster Cup. But his last win was at Talladega, and you know, could that be the same thing with Dale Jr.? Yeah, I mean, it could happen. And, you know, this is definitely a weekend where you at least got to have one lineup with Dale Earnhardt on it because, you know, you can't help but root for a guy like that. And also, I'm sure most of you social media darlings out there also saw that Talladega presented him a replica of his dad's number 2. So pretty sweet there. But, I mean, the stats don't lie here. He's the most dominant driver here at Talladega that's still active. Now, obviously, the last 2 races, he hasn't had that much success here with a 40th and a 22nd place finish here. But in 2015, he got won the race in the springtime and then got second in the fall here. So don't be surprised if they get up there. Even if they do qualify up top, stay up front most of the day and for that chance to win. So I definitely love the stars aligning for old Junebug for Sunday, and hoping that he can get it done, man. And it'd be nice to send him out on a win.
Yeah, it would be awesome. I'm so excited about this play this week just because there are a few times where you get to make a play that coincides with an awesome event like this that has the upside and can be the right play. It's just very rarely in fantasy sports that you get to make all of those plays at the same time. And
exactly.
So it'll be fun. And even your fade lineups will be fun as well, you know, because you can root if something weird happens. Let's hope it doesn't. But if something weird happens, then you have contrarian lineups to roll with.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is this type of track with the amount of crashes and, you know, these guys are obviously, it's all about the speed and the aerodynamics up front. It's about the air drafting. You know, and we're going to get the big one, and it could be a win by attrition, but a win is a win. I'm hoping that it does happen this weekend.
Oh, we'll talk about one of those guys that won by attrition one year, like coming up. But Lear, who's your pick to burn some rubber this week, buddy?
Well, I'm going to switch my hat here real quick.
All right.
And go to my other guy that's a fantastic restrictor plate racer.
Now, I'm going to interrupt you for a second, dude. I love Kez, and I understand our normal hat switch. But, man, I kind of feel like it dishonors Dale to, like, not just keep the Dale hats on the restrictor plate. But I'll let you have it. Well,
I'm going to put it back on after I get done talking about Kez. But
all right, deal.
I'm going to be rolling with the number 2, little light throwback to, my first choice, obviously, was Dale. But my second choice is going to be Brad Keselowski. This week, the number 2 team is going to be racing a throwback paint scheme as a tribute to Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Junior Motorsports, as he gave Brad the opportunity to race the number 88 in the Xfinity Series, just getting his start within NASCAR. So this is one of Brad's best types of tracks that he's raced in his career. In fact, Daggett is one of his most successful tracks and is his most successful track with 4 wins. In the last 3 consecutive races here at Dega, Kez has at least led 31 laps, with the most being 90 laps that he led here last year in this race in 2016, but unfortunately finished 38 due to an engine issue. But this guy won his first ever race back here in 2009 when he started 9th, and he only led 1 lap, and that was the one most important lap, which was the final one. Kez's cost this week is under where it should be, in my opinion, at 9,800. Actually, last year, he was also my burning rubber pick, but he was only $9,000 last year. So that kind of tells you in retrospect where the pricing has gone from year over year here. But with 2 races left in the stage of the playoffs, he currently sits 10th in the points for the championship standings. So if he has any championship aspirations, you can throw those out the window if he doesn't have a good performance this weekend, because this week, obviously, he's racing at one of his strongest track types in his Monster Cup career. And next week, coming here to Kansas, he doesn't want to leave it up just to that one race to have a great finish here. And historically, he hasn't had the best races at Kansas. So this is his opportunity to make it into the next round of the playoffs. So obviously, in my opinion, I think he'll get it done this weekend. He's going to finish second and finish second behind the number 88 of the Mountain Dew of Dale Earnhardt Jr.
I like the narrative of him finishing second. I also like the play Lear, and I'm sorry I had to steal Junior from you, but it just had to happen. And the other play that I would make is Kez if I wasn't playing Junior as my burning rubber. I like both of these guys this week, and yes, it's crazy for us to not talk about the Truex or the Rowdy or the Larson. But guys, at a restrictor plate, all of their skills and the way that those cars have been faster than everybody, they don't matter at a restrictor plate. All the cars should be even. And as long as your car is able to stay on the lead lap, you have a chance to win at the end. And that's the reality of the restrictor plate race. You have to be on the lead lap, though, so you don't want to take any of those cars that can't hang on the lead lap. And speaking of which, it's time for value. I think I'll kick off the value since you just got done with your burning rubber. Doing things a little bit different because I chose Dale first. But guys, Dale, yeah. My pick for value this week is David Ragan, guys. He's 5,800. Not only is he cheap, but he also has a win here. And the main reason why I'm picking him is because this car can actually stay on the lead lap. Heck, he's done it once before. That's how he got his win. But the other reason why I'm picking him is he's in that Juice Batteries car, which is sweet. It's like neon green and purple. And before qualifying, that's the best I have to go on for you, is a little bit of track history and which car I like the best. So David Ragan's paint scheme is A-OK in my books. I think it's awesome. Looks kind of like a monster truck paint scheme. I'm going to roll with Ragan with his win. Guys, this is a place differential play, and like we said, anybody that can stay on the lead lap has the chance to win when it's all said and done. So make sure your value can at least stay on the lead lap. Basically, what I would do is I wouldn't go below Brandon Gaughan this weekend, and that's just me. Lear, your thoughts on my value play?
Yeah, David Ragan. I mean, anytime you get a guy that is at least a former winner here, has got the experience underneath his belt. Obviously, David Ragan's been in NASCAR for a long, long time. He's obviously hopped around from team to team, but has been racing here at Talladega since 2007. So, he's definitely one of those guys that has a lot of experience, 21 starts here at Talladega. He knows how to draft. He knows how everything works here. Obviously, he's going to be one of those guys that's going to start ladder in the field. Here at the Talladega, same thing at Daytona. Obviously, from a fantasy perspective, we all have learned over the time that it's best to always take guys that start ladder in the field due to that attrition and wrecks that take place. Definitely, David Ragan is one of those guys that falls within that category. I think he's going to be probably a pretty high-owned guy this weekend, just because a lot of other people will see that as well. Obviously, a guy that can, definitely get it done for you and surprise come out of nowhere and, take down a win. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I mean, the percentages say it won't happen. Is there a chance that he gets a top 10? Yeah. I mean, it's probably over 25% maybe that he gets a top 10 here at Talladega this weekend. And this is one of those tracks, again, that we always talk about where, how each different track, you basically, and it's been that way for quite some time, but you've got guys that are, you got the lead guys that are the most dominant guys, and then you got the guys in the back that just don't have a chance. This weekend it's completely different. Throw all that out the window. Anybody who's anybody has a chance to win here this weekend. Ragan is one of those guys for sure.
Well, as long as their car can stay at least on the lead lap. right, or a lap down so they can get back on the lead lap. The reason why I love the rig and play is earlier this spring, 29th to 10th in its history, and granted you're going to have to go back a couple of years, 19th to 1st, 25th to 4th, 32nd to finish 7th, started 26th, finished 6th. He has a history of going forward and making the push late at this race. That's the kind of guy I want to make with value, especially compared to the other value alternatives, like I said, that are in that price range. There's some of those cars that will not stay on the lead lap, and if they go multiple laps down, they're just done. Like, your race is over for that car.
Once you lose the pack, I mean, it's hard to get it back.
Oh yeah, and if you lose the pack here, you're done. You're just done. So any of those cars that can't hang with that top group, just don't play them this week. It's not like a normal track where attrition alone will get them there. That could happen, but I don't. Man, if you're off at a restrictor plate speed track like this, you're just off, and it's a terrible, terrible situation. Lear, who do you have for some value this week, buddy?
Actually, I'm gonna be going with the number 19 Camping World Toyota of Daniel Suarez as my value play this week. Suarez has had a great rookie campaign this season and trying to fill the shoes of Carl Edwards, which is no easy task within itself. But Suarez doesn't have a ton of history at restrictor plate races, and to be honest, he doesn't really have the best of stats here either. These types of tracks as far as restrictor plates. His only other time that he's is the spring here, which he started 7th and finished 19th. At Daytona this year, he finished 29th and 17th, and also led 11 laps during the 17th place finish. But as far as his Xfinity experience, which, I mean, it's a little bit different, but kind of the same because the track's the same. He's raced here 3 times. He finished 31st, 7th, and 9th. And his cost this week is $7,300, and he has 3 consecutive top 10 finishes of 8th, 8th, and 6th, which includes last week at Charlotte. So he's rolling into Talladega with some momentum with those 3 consecutive top 10 finishes. If they can survive and not get involved in the big one, he can provide some real value if he doesn't start too high in the field. So, depending on where he qualifies at, but before qualifying, I definitely like Daniel Suarez, and I think he's going to be a sneaky play because a lot of people, I think, will overlook him, 1, because he drives a Toyota, but 2, because he doesn't have the best of stats here. But like we've always talked about, NASCAR is all about momentum, and this team definitely has momentum coming into Talladega. So I definitely like Daniel Suarez this weekend, and I think he could definitely get a top 10, depending on where he starts. But if he's starting in the mid-pack of the 20s, oh yeah, I'm starting quite a bit. Now, if he starts in the top 10, I'm going to halter that love for him, just because I don't think he's going to have a top 5, but it's going to be one of those things where I may go a different direction if he ends up starting from that 5th to 10th position.
I love your argument, and I like the reason why you're on him. Suarez will be under-owned, and the reason why I say this is because Ryan Newman priced $100 cheaper is probably going to appear to be more attractive, but the ones that I find really more attractive are the ones that are just a few $100s more than him. And once again, man, I can't believe you didn't tell us the Casey Kane pajama story and all over it as fast as he's been running in practice. But we've got Casey Kane running 1st or 2nd in both practices, and he's only 7,600. He was with the other car with Dale Jr., able to maneuver around the pack, pass cars. That car looked really good as well. I also like Jamie Mack as long as he continues his streak of under-qualifying at 7,800. And Sticky Ricky at 8K in the beautiful Sunny D car. Hopefully he can fight off his gut rot and do some damage. But restrictor plates is where...
And he's going for 3 consecutive restrictor plate wins.
Exactly. Restrictor plates is where Sticky Ricky gets it done. So those are the value plays that I'm like... And dude, and then right above them, Boyer and Kurt Busch. Like, those guys are all really good restrictor plate drivers.
And I think that one other guy that I would like to add to that list that we didn't talk about is Paul Menard. The guy's got, I mean, he's $7,000 this week, but he's definitely got some, good stats here. He's got 3 top 5s and 6 top 10s, and he seems to kind of always qualify up towards the top with, at least within those last 5 races. He's qualified 7th, 13th, 10th, 10th, and 9th. But guys got finishes of 3rd, 6th, 9th. I mean, for a value guy at $7,000, don't overlook Mr. RCR and Paul Menard in the 27.
I'm going to give you one more bonus play of value here, and that bonus play is Ty Dillon at 6,500. Like, he was priced as a guy that was qualifying in the 30s and placing in the 20s, and they got his pricing right, but then he stopped doing that. His practice speeds are way faster than the majority of the field, and if he has another poor qualifying effort like this team is notorious for, this will be a very interesting place differential play that should be able to hang. His lap times with the group say that he has a top 15 car easily today. I'm not worried about Ty Dillon, and that is an amazing play at 6,500, but a lot of people are going to be on it probably by looking at the numbers. So after that little bit of bonus coverage, Lear, are there anybody else that we're leaving out of this value play that you're on this week? Are you looking for a DiBenedetto, a Castle, a Reagan, a McDowell maybe? Danica, if she fits the Papa rule starting 25th or worse?
Well, I'll be talking about Danica here in a little bit, but I definitely like, I mean, the guy, the only time he races at the Monster Cup level is during these restrictor plates. But Brennan Gong, don't forget about this guy, this weekend. He's one of the guys that just races on these restrictor plates when they increase the field size. I mean, guy's got great, racing experience. He's one of those guys that will hang out. He'll definitely qualify from 30th or 40th position, but he just seems really consistent. And, as long as he keeps that car on the track and keeps it up with the pack, I definitely like him at $5,300. And he's always got a chance to score some points and have some huge place differential.
No, I was just getting ready to advocate the same thing. At Daytona, he scored a 64. In July at Daytona, he scored a 66. This car is specifically designed to run restrictor plates, and he, as a restrictor plate driver, gets it done. And at 5,300, don't leave him off of your group of players of your player pool this week, or you will probably be upset. All right, now it's time for everybody's favorite segment, Going to the Garage. Now, this is the segment where we get to talk trash on drivers. Maybe we're talking trash on a team. Maybe we're talking trash on NASCAR, or talking trash on DraftKings. The essence here is we just like to talk trash on someone or something. Lear, I want to let you go first for a change. Who are you going to send to the garage and talk some trash on today, buddy?
It pains me to say this, but I'm going to be going with Danica Patrick as my Going to Garage pick this week.
Oh, what did Wonder Woman do wrong to you?
I know. We come to a style of track that she just hasn't had much success in her career. Now, granted, this restrictor track type of racing, she did get the pole at one time at Daytona, but has obviously never had long sustained kind of success at these type of tracks. But obviously, we don't know where she's going to qualify at today. Obviously, it's later on today. But she has 9 career starts here at Talladega. No need to go over the zeros because obviously she's got 0 wins, 0 top 5s, 0 top 10s. But she only has 2 top 20 finishes where she finished 19th in 2014 and 20th in last year's race in 2016 at this race in the fall. She has also led 16 laps here in her career, which was a little bit surprising to me. I didn't realize that she had, most of those I don't know where they came from, but that was definitely a little bit of a surprising fact to me. But she has an average start of 24.8 and an average finish of 26.3. She finished 38th last week at Charlotte, obviously getting into it with David Reagan there with a wreck. Before that, though, she had 3 consecutive finishes of 18th in each of those last 3 races, so she broke that streak last week. But her cost this week is $6,200, which is always a good price for Danica Patrick. But if she does have a poor qualifying position, and I mean 30th or higher, then, I may have a little bit more exposure on her just because of her experience and the type of vehicle that she's in with Stuart Haas. But anything higher than that, I'm going to say no thank you to the number 10 Aspen Dental car. But other than that, I still love you, honey.
Yeah, Lear, I have absolutely no problem with sending her to the garage. It is absolutely incomprehensible to me that she doesn't have a top 10 and hasn't stumbled her way into a top 10 or a top 5 at a restrictor plate. I mean, these are the same tracks where we get Trevor Bayne wins, David Reagan wins, Landon Castle wins. So it's anything's possible, and yet, once again, she's a driver that doesn't seem to do the anything's possible. Instead, she seems to be the exception to the rule. So I have no problem with you sending her to the garage. Someone I'm going to send to the garage is Front Row Motorsports. Now, I know I chose one of their drivers as my value play, but it's what they're doing to their other driver. I cannot handle what they did to Landon Castle this week. It's egregious in my opinion. The guy does exactly what you ask him to do in your mediocre equipment, right? That's what that car is. Let's not fluff it up or not knock him down. That
not
car,
sugarcoat it.
Right? Not sugarcoat it. That car is a mediocre car, and he drives it better than what I think most people would. And the real problem that I have with this is Landon Castle is maybe the best person in NASCAR other than Dale Jr. at social media. And NASCAR has a major problem with viewership. Lear, you retweeted an article last week about how low viewership was with last week's race at Charlotte. And does it seem to make any sense when sponsors are pulling out and all of this commotion's going on that a team would dump literally the best guy at social media who has everyone and their brother tweeting pictures every time they're at a Love's Travel stop asking whether or not Landon Castle's there? I mean,
I didn't see you there, Landon.
Right.
And he always responds to him, too, which is awesome.
Right. Dude, it's unforgivable in this day and age for a race team to move another direction. They're like, we're going to take our equipment and our sponsors and we're going to go elsewhere. It's like, well, aren't you indignant? And Landon Castle has made your brands and marketed them well. This seems to be, to me, the one of many in a long list of NASCAR and NASCAR teams making terrible decisions that are going to hurt the sport in the long run and cutting away one of the best drivers that has the best social media outreach for the next generations. That guy should be getting a better ride, not losing his ride. That's the reality. And until NASCAR understands that and understands the dynamics of social media and the current trends, they're going to continue to die as a sport, unfortunately. Lear, I was a little harsh, but...
Yeah, as a fellow Iowegian of Landon Castle, I hope he has nothing but the best of luck in finding another ride. Because I definitely love Landon Castle. He's a good driver. Obviously been around the sport for a little while now, and definitely a social media darling, and does nothing farther than the truth from when he's trying to do his best to promote the company that is promoting him. And I think a lot of people live their life that way. If you support the driver of a sport that I like, I'm going to support your business. And I think a lot of people look at that, and especially the way he's involved with people going to those love stops. I mean, it's one of those things that it's a harsh reality of NASCAR. But my other thought here too is this a possible power play in landing one of the other drivers that's possibly a free agent next year? Whether that's, I don't know if Matt Kenseth would go that far down and go race for Go Fast Racing. Could they be getting Michael McDowell? Could they go get Kenseth? Could they be, possibly going after Bubba Wallace? Or, there's a ton of guys that are going to be available. Danica Patrick. Are they going to go after Danica Patrick? I don't know. They're probably weighing the fact of who they could then get to sit in that driver's seat for next year versus Landon Castle, which, I mean, it sucks, but that's part of the reality of the sport of NASCAR.
The current rumor mill is that it will be Kenseth, and I'm sorry, taking Kenseth, who won formerly as a champion but doesn't have a good social media presence, is an older driver. That's just a way to kill a race team. And honestly, what you were saying about the sponsorship is a legit problem. Like, I've thought about not going to Love's Travel stops, just to voice my opinion about the matter. And
the crazy part is too, so you got Casey King going to the Levine family number 95. So you're talking about a former, winner going to a smaller team that just doesn't have the opportunities anymore because he's, getting longer in the tooth. Same thing with Kenseth. This is their, opportunity to get a former champion and a former race winner underneath their belt. But that's the problem, is these guys are in the latter parts of their career. They're not going to rectify what they've done in these bigger teams' equipment and your smaller team, lesser budget equipment. It's not going to happen. And I don't know if you're, as an owner, you're looking at it from, oh, okay, we've got a quote unquote brand name guy, where a lot of these teams are kind of looked at as, I know Xfinity Series is looked at as a developmental series for, the Monster Cup series. But, some of these smaller teams too, it's the same thing, where you've got these guys that are like Alex Bowman was racing for a smaller team when he was doing the Monster Cup series here. And now look at him. He's going to be racing the number 88 next year. So I don't know if I just think they're kind of going the wrong direction with, getting these longer tooth, older drivers into these smaller teams.
The argument's just true, and it's the apex of foolishness, in my opinion. If you couldn't get it done in the elite top-end equipment, why are you going to get it done in substandard, mediocre, middle of the run equipment? And it's foolish to think that that's going to happen. And to give up a driver that is literally has the best outreach to try to go after one of those older guys just seems incredibly foolish and incredibly stupid. I mean, the reason why it's really stupid is, what direction do you think Team JGR is going in, right? Like, they're going younger, other than their two studs. Like,
same with Hendrick.
Right. They're all getting younger. And the reason why is, yes, they can pay the younger drivers a little bit less, but the real reason is those guys have a social media presence, and those guys are able to bring in new viewers and the young into the sport. And Kenseth is not going to do that. Loves and their sponsors are going to be upset. They think they're getting a good deal with a former champion, but guess what? That former champion is going to ride exactly where Landon Cassill is, if not worse. And that's my argument, because these are guys that were doing not great things in amazing equipment. What are they going to do in average equipment? And I'm just, that's why, like, I know this rant went a little long in the tooth, as you like to say, Lear. By the way, great usage of that old adage. But but it's just, it's one of the many egregious things that is really bothering me about NASCAR. So I'm sending all these teams with the backwards philosophy to the garage, not just Front Row Motorsports. So we sent Danica in Front Row to the garage. Anybody else that you are just not playing? We've already talked a little bit about the value guys that you do not want to play. Should we list most of them off, or?
No, I mean, for me, it's, you can pretty much, I know that we talked a lot about statistics today, and because that's basically all we have to go off of, and also practice 1 and practice 2 from yesterday. But we don't have qualifying in front of us. It's just not done yet. And that's going to be a huge determining factor as far as who you put on your fantasy lineups this weekend. Any other drivers? I mean, it's just, this is Talladega and restrictor plate. Anything goes.
Yeah. Just to give you the list, as we said, we like to play Brendan Gaughan at these tracks at 5,300. I probably wouldn't play Gase. Colwitt's car looks really off and was having problems. It couldn't even get up to speed. So if he has a problem in qualifying, keep in mind that that car is really off. Jeffrey Earnhardt is almost never a play anywhere ever, because that car is lucky to just log laps. It's unfortunate, but that's the truth. Golding, Kennington, Marks, Thompson, all these cars are cars that may not even stick with the lead pack and may fall off more than one lap early. I wouldn't make those plays this week. That's just a risk I wouldn't take.
Well, you know what they say, if you start from the bottom, you only got one direction to go, and that's to rise to the top. As we've talked about in past shows and today, you're going to have to pick. I would say your strategy this weekend is pick at least 2 to 3 guys that are starting from the 30th to 40th position, because that is going to be some huge place differential guys there. And then even some from the 20th to 30th, because That's the biggest thing here is place differential for points, because
Right.
we're only talking about 188 laps for laps led and fastest laps this weekend. And so that, those are going to be at a minimal where more emphasis is going to be placed on place differential and just picking the right guy, Matt, Keselowski or Dale Earnhardt or whoever is going to lead the laps. And even if that is true, they're not going to lead, 100 and some laps. At most, it's probably going to be anywhere from 50 to maybe 100. And then even then, throw in the, the segments this weekend. It's going to be chopped up a little bit. So definitely choose your emphasis on your place differential plays.
Well, and the fastest lap cars, which scores the most points, usually come from somebody drafting, not from the car in the lead. So you don't get those bonus points like you normally do for a car leading lap and being the fastest car on the track. Guys, I would say just don't worry about dominators this week. Don't worry about where people are starting on the pole or whatever. It's a restrictor plate, man. Play the cars you want to play the cars you think will be there in the end. Something big is going to happen, and it'll take out a chunk of these guys. And if that's part of your lineup, oops. If that's not, congrats. And that's basically restrictor plate racing from a fantasy perspective. It is.
We could get obviously everybody remembers earlier this summer, but we could get a Indy 2.0 here this weekend, where it's literally like 8 cars left on the track at the end of the race.
Yeah, I think it was a total of 12, but yeah, it wasn't much.
I mean, I just throw that out there, but yeah.
Well, Lear, before we get out of here and say our goodbyes, I think it's a good chance to talk. We've talked a little bit about NASCAR's problem with viewership when we were talking about Front Row Motorsports and Landon Castle. But once again, we've seen NASCAR viewership way down. We've seen viewership on our show even go down because of the competition with football. I think NASCAR needs to move the races to Saturday nights once football season starts and compete only with college football. What are your thoughts on NASCAR moving to Saturday night racing for the main series?
Yeah, I definitely think it would be in their best interest to do so. I think that Saturday night racing, one, people like Saturday night racing, but two, you're not having that much competition when it comes to other sports and viewership on Saturday night because you only got just a handful of NCAA football games going on. So you're going to have, obviously confliction with other races, at local tracks with like the Sprint Outlaws and the modifieds and stuff at the local tracks where guys are racing Friday and mostly they happen on Saturday nights. But that's what you have to do when you're at the top level is you don't care what else is going on. Your main focus is the Monster Energy Cup series. So it's one of those things where I think that it would definitely be in their best interest from a viewership perspective and also sponsorships, because you've got these networks that are paying all this money to have your sport on their channel. And Saturday night is, the only way to go once football starts. And especially too, this is your prime time of people watching your sport, because this is your playoffs. Like, this is the biggest part of the season. And this is the sport with the longest season out of any sports that we have is NASCAR. It goes, from February all the way till November. And, when you have your biggest show going on, you need to have it in a time slot where people can watch it. And Sundays just during football season and the fall, a lot of families are out going to, these pumpkin patches and, doing a lot of things with their families in the fall as well. It's just one of those where I think you move it to Saturday night because you have a lot more people that will have the opportunity to view it. And I don't think that they would suffer that much from going from Sunday to Saturday, because obviously the proof is in the pudding where they've had the lowest viewership last week. And the other thing is the competition, because a lot of people are complaining too that there's just not the racing isn't as competitive as they would like it to see, because it's always the same drivers up front are winning. So I think especially too Talladega, the way that restrictor plate plays out, you got to have that bad boy on Saturday night because it's exciting racing all the way around.
Well, with that said, Lear, the reason why people don't do Saturday nights, I believe, is because of the pumpkin patching, right? Like, no one's home to watch things on Saturday night. And that's why NASCAR doesn't race there. What I think really needs to be done is adjust the start times on Sunday, right? You either go toe-to-toe with Sunday Night Football, which most people have reached football attrition by the time Sunday Night Football gets around. Although at this point in the season, you are dealing with flex scheduling where they can put the better games at Sunday night. But what I would do is I would schedule every race to start 30 minutes after the afternoon slate of games. When you're only running 3 games, only one of which is nationally televised, instead of running against the 12 games, or the 8 or 9 games that are running in the morning. Like, make this a smart decision. Run in the afternoon against less games. Do it that way. That'll appease the sponsors. And then people are still at home or out at the bar watching sports. You're not putting it into another dead spot, and you're not competing against 9 football games. That would be my suggestion. Move it in the middle of the afternoon on Sunday. Let people that get tired with their football fantasy teams and get mad at their football team or happy, turn over to NASCAR when there's a crappy game on in the afternoon. That would be my recommendation. Then, too, you're also running the end of the race into the news hour. I think that's the right solution. I think just bumping it back a little bit on Sundays would work out the best.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, is we definitely can both agree, though, that once football starts, that the noon and the 1 o'clock kickoff times, start times for NASCAR, it's not working.
It's nonsensical. Yeah. It's the same it's the same fundamental problem of a bad idea of like firing the young guys that are tweeting out for you. Like, it doesn't make any sense, and all it takes is for you to look at it for like 2 seconds to understand why it doesn't make any sense and that there are better alternatives. But that seems to be how our country's working right now.
Oh, yeah.
With that said, kids, thanks for tuning in and watching. As always, remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Lear and I will be trying to do our best to comment and update things as soon as qualifying comes out. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask us on the YouTube page, and we'll get those answered quickly. With that said, guys, thank you again for watching. Lear, say your goodbyes and get us out of here.
Man, I'm excited to watch this race. It's going to be freaking awesome. It's definitely one of those tracks. It is on my bucket list. I have not made it down to Alabama to go check this race out, but I definitely will. It is one that is on the top of my bucket list. But I definitely that we see Dale Earnhardt Jr. get into the winner's circle tomorrow, and I'm just hoping that we make the right plays, and hopefully my fantasy team will be on the top. So,
Dale, yeah.
Here's to you, Dale, yeah. Let's do it this weekend, buddy.
Now, are you worried? Wait, before we get out of here, are you worried about the green car myth? That green cars always end up wrecked.
Green means go, and green means fast.
But in NASCAR, a green car is the taboo. Yeah. It supposedly has a bad aura around it. I say Junior gets it done in the green Mountain Dew car, wins that baby, and breaks forever the stigma of the green.
Well, and I will tell you this. Car. If NASCAR was smart and these drivers were smart, now I know there's a lot of money on the line.
I know. They would let him win. I'm with you.
Yes. That would seriously save this sport for this season. But also, I mean, the media outcry would be just ridiculous.
Well, right. And as Henry Ford once said, the only bad publicity is no publicity. Like NASCAR could turn that and run with it. So with that said, guys, I think that wraps up another week of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. Thanks for tuning in. It's time for us to get out of here. Lear, wave bye again. Later, y'all. Have a good week. Let's make some money.